These days, all of Koreans losing their minds over a certain online multiplayer game. The hook? Players get to design their own dungeons, build, trap, conquer. It's basically digital god mode. And out of all the insane players out there, one name constantly floats to the top. Kong Chi-woo. This guy plays so absurdly well that people are convinced he's either hacking or not even human. Some swear he's an AI running rogue. Always at the top of the leaderboards, no slip-ups, no mistakes, and with his quiet, robotic vibe and emotionless face, the AI theory doesn't sound too far-fetched. The reason for his obsession is simple. In that game, he has full control. He rules over every inch of the world he creates. Unlike reality, where everything feels out of reach, frustrating, and painfully limited. In real life, even something as simple as a telephone pole is untouchable. No optimization, no modification, just dead weight. But in the game, he can shrink it, stretch it, turn it into a damn dragon if he wants. Just a click, and boom, transformation. So, when a truck comes barreling toward him IRL, he just stands there, calmly accepting that he's about to get eye-skied. If it were the game, he'd have flicked the truck off the map by now. But reality doesn't play by his rules. Fortunately, the driver slams the brakes at the last second, cursing at Chi-woo for standing in the middle of the road like a psycho. Chi-woo just points at the crosswalk light. It's green. Technically, he wasn't wrong. Still, it pisses him off. The real world sucks. No edits, no control. If he had even a fraction of his in-game power here, things would be different. For example, that giant iron reinforcement bar dangling above, a death trap waiting to happen. Any second now, it's going to snap and crush the little girl standing below like a bug. With no time left, Chi-woo bolts forward, shoves the girl out of harm's way, and takes the hit himself. Crushed. Dead on the spot. But of course, that's not the end. Next thing he knows, he's floating in a black void. No pain, no body, just darkness. In front of him stands some demonic-looking figure, radiating power and ancient energy. It mutters something cryptic, something about death being just the start. Chi-woo hasn't even glimpsed real reality yet. Before he can question it, his soul is launched into a new body. He wakes up gasping, overwhelmed. The senses hit hard, too sharp to be a dream. His thoughts are a mess. Where is he? Whose body is this? Why the hell isn't he dead? The only thing he knows for sure, he's been reincarnated. His surroundings feel strange, old, and cold. Stone walls, iron air, a medieval aura. He's inside some ancient castle. Still dazed and muttering a bunch of questions to himself, Chi-woo suddenly gets skewered. A sharp blade rams straight through his chest, blood pouring out like someone turned on a faucet. The woman holding the sword, calm, collected, clearly enjoying the show, pulls the blade back without flinching, ripping even more pain out of him. She's got that look, the kind of person who treats pain like entertainment. Chi-woo can't even begin to understand how he's still conscious. That hit should have knocked him out cold, but he's still awake, still bleeding, still trying to make sense of it. He turns his head toward her, desperate for an answer, but she doesn't give him the luxury. No explanations, just silence and that cold stare. She raises her sword again, clearly ready to finish the job and slice him into dust. But right before she strikes, someone else steps in. Another guy walks into the room, and suddenly the vibe shifts. Turns out the three of them are siblings. The girl, the one who stabbed him, is named Seldra, and the guy who just interrupted, he's the older brother. He tells her to take a chill pill, says she's being a little too dramatic. Then he walks over to Chi-woo, now known in this world as Kella, gets down on one knee, and hands him a potion. Plays the concerned brother role like he's done it 100 times. Kella, still trying to process the stabbing, actually thinks the guy might be legit. Maybe he does care. Maybe this is the start of something better. He drinks it, and instantly regrets every life decision that led to this moment. The so-called potion torches his throat like acid. It feels like 1,000 needles ripping through his insides. His body goes into shock. He doubles over, throwing up on the spot, gasping for breath. Whatever was in that bottle, it wasn't meant to heal. Kildura, now watching him choke and writhe, suddenly looks concerned. Not because she regrets anything, but because she wants to be the one to kill him, and right now, it looks like the poison's gonna beat her to it. The older brother casually reassures her. Says the pain's intense, sure, but trash like Kella won't die that easily. Suddenly, the massive castle gates swing open with thunderous force. The soldiers drop to one knee, announcing the return of King Hel-Kaldun from yet another brutal hero hunt. Turns out, the man behind the title isn't just a king, he's the Demon King. And more importantly, he's the father of the two pathetic excuses for siblings who were just bullying Kella moments ago. As the dust settles and the king steps into view, it's clear this guy is the definition of a walking nightmare. Towering, sharp-eyed, radiating raw dominance, the man screams authority. No softness, no hesitation, just a permanent scowl etched into stone. And he's not happy. The sound of pathetic cries echoing through his castle grates against his pride like rust on a blade. One of the siblings, panicked and pathetic, tries to apologize, throwing Kella under the bus without a second thought. Classic move. But Hell Khaldun doesn't entertain weakness. Without warning, he blurs forward, godlike in his speed, and seizes both of his children by the throat. His grip alone is enough to crush boulders, and he lifts them off the ground like ragdolls. To him, weakness is an insult. Noise is disgrace. Pain? That's a private matter. The screams of failure have no place within the walls of his domain. As the two siblings choke and squirm, Kella pieces it together. The bastard standing in front of him is his father. And those squirming losers? His siblings. A cosmic joke with a punchline that hits like a freight train. Then, just as quickly, the king turns on Kella. No words. No hesitation. He slams his boot down on him like he's nothing more than discarded trash. The message is crystal clear. The only sounds allowed in this castle are those of greatness being forged, or a warrior's death. Kella's scream echoes through the stone halls, raw and ragged. Every nerve in his body screams real. No dream. No glitch. This is another world. And if things weren't twisted enough, he's now the son of a ruthless, power-drunk demon king. Before diving further into the present, it's worth rewinding the tape, back to when Kella was just a kid. Even then, life had already made him its personal punching bag. His siblings treated him like a chew toy. Seldara once jabbed a fork straight into his eye without flinching. Tarm, his brother, thought it'd be funny to spike his food. While Kella cried and ran to his mother, her idea of comfort was twisted advice. Pay them back like a real demon would. Kella could have tried, but fear kept him in check. Crossing his siblings felt like playing with death. And according to his mother, that was the exact reason he should strike first. After all, Kella's father didn't become the demon king by playing nice. He murdered 12 of his own brothers to claim the title. In this world, power wasn't inherited. It was taken. She didn't just preach it either. She proved it. One moment, she was lecturing him. The next, her dagger was buried in his stomach. No hesitation, no mercy. A lesson in blood. This was the demon's way, and this is how Kella was supposed to treat his own siblings. He jolted awake, breath ragged, soaked in cold sweat. A nightmare, sure, but it carried the weight of memory. A woman stood by his side, visibly relieved to see him breathing again. Rin, his personal maid, if you could even call her that. More like a nuisance with a job title. Kella stayed still, letting the pieces fall into place. What he just experienced weren't dreams. They were fragments of someone else's life. The memories of the body's original owner, Kel Callan. And it didn't take long for him to realize something else. Every injury on him was gone. Not even a scar. This body had monstrous regenerative powers. Just another reminder that things were different now. Rin told him he'd been passed out for days and insisted he join the family for food. But even that sounded more like a routine order than genuine concern. Her loyalty wasn't real. She never respected him. Never even acted like a proper servant. Slacked off constantly. Ignored her duties. Talked back when she felt like it. Just another face in a long list of people who walked all over the old Kella. And now that he's inside this body, he can't help but judge its former owner. Pathetic. Weak. No wonder everyone pushed him around. Even a servant like Rin treated the Demon King's son like trash. And the worst part? He let it happen. Looking back, it's clear this world isn't any different from the one he came from. Same rules. Same outcome. The weak get crushed. The strong devour everything in their path. Later, when he takes his place at the family table, he finds the rest already there. The Demon King doesn't hide his irritation at Kella's late arrival. There's a tension in the air, sharp and heavy. Kella feels the pressure the moment he steps in. Not surprising, considering he's in the presence of the Demon King himself. Still, he keeps his composure, takes his seat, and mutters a quiet apology. Not that it helps. Under the table, his sister Seldara sends a dagger straight into his leg. It lands clean and deep, pain erupting instantly. She and her loyal servant laugh like it's the funniest thing in the world. Seldara acts sweet, tossing mock concern and fake wishes his way while enjoying the sight of him squirming. Inwardly, he's barely holding it together. The pain's real, the rage even more so. But the risk of them finding out that he's not the real Kella keeps him locked in place. So he plays along, nods, pretends to appreciate her twisted affection. But the moment he takes his first bite, he knows something's off. This isn't food, it's a punishment. Tarm's doing, without a doubt, some disgusting soup masked as an appetizer, served with that signature fake smile plastered on his face. Always pretending to care. Always watching. Kella's had enough. These people aren't family. They're enemies in disguise. And sitting quietly, taking hit after hit, isn't an option anymore. He makes a choice, right there at the table. No more playing victim. No more swallowing pain in silence. In the game, he was known as the strongest map designer. Feared, respected, unbeatable. But in reality, he had nothing. Powerless. Hopeless. Crushed to death under a chunk of metal like it meant nothing. That version of him is gone. This time, he's rewriting the rules. Without hesitation, he grabs the food platter and hurls it straight in Iseldra's face. If he's going to taste Tarm's cooking, so is she. Then, without flinching, he rips the dagger from his leg and throws it back at Tarm. Fair's fair. Everyone gets to enjoy the gifts. And just to seal the moment, he stands up, grabs the heavy dining table, and flips the whole damn thing over. Dishes fly, silverware scatters, chaos explodes. The Demon King watches in silence, clearly stunned. No one saw it coming. A while later, Kella looked like a smug cat who'd just kicked over the family dinner. And rightfully so. Watching his lovely demon relatives choke on their own drama had been nothing short of satisfying. Though, maybe, just maybe, he shouldn't have flipped that damn table. That little stunt lit his father up like a volcano on steroids. Next thing he knew, Kella was being hammered into the floor like a tent peg. That strange energy flowing through his veins didn't just feel powerful, it felt right. For now, he needed to figure out what exactly he was working with. Almost like fate had perfect timing, his maid appeared to remind him about his scheduled lessons on demonic power. Her tone, firm and commanding, didn't sit well with him anymore. He shut that down cold. Whatever Kella used to be, he wasn't that anymore. Rin, of course, was confused. She couldn't figure out where all this attitude came from. Meanwhile, Kella was thinking about these so-called lessons. From what he remembered, thanks to the leftover memories in this recycled body, they sucked. Like next-level torture with a side of humiliation. But skipping them wouldn't help him figure out what he could really do now. So, he sucked it up and headed to the training grounds. Later at the training grounds, the instructor announced that Lady Seldra and Lord Tarm wouldn't be joining. No one really cared. They weren't the kind to be missed. At least the rest of the class showed up. Kella stood among them, stone-faced, sizing up the familiar trash on either side of him. He remembered them well, two faces tied to every beating the old Kella ever took. Fake smiles, cheap excuses, and fists that never stopped. They used mock duels as cover to pound him into the dirt, just like his siblings did. Pure-blooded demons with nothing better to do than bully the quiet kid who never fought back. But that version of Kella? Gone. The truth was clear now. The old Kella was never weak. He was just too kind for a world that fed on cruelty. That kindness got him crushed over and over again. But now, the leash was off. The real Kella had arrived, and this time, he wasn't holding back. With power coursing through him and a score to settle, he planned to flip the whole damn hierarchy. And when he was done, the trash around him would know exactly where they stood. Class kicks off, and the teacher announces they're picking up right where they left off, with sparring. No warm-ups, no breaks. The redhead steps up fast, claiming he was the one who fought Kella last time. Loud, cocky, full of unnecessary flair. He starts throwing shade, clearly trying to get under Kella's skin. Classic mistake. Kella doesn't flinch. He's been through worse. This isn't the first punk trying to act tough with a crowd behind him. The redhead goes by the name Rude, because of course he does, starts flexing his mana, coating his hands with flashy violet and blue energy like he's trying to win a light show contest. He's ready to put on a performance, and everyone's watching, already assuming Kella's about to get smoked again. Kella clocks it all. Every snide comment, every smug face. The whole scene reeks of deja vu. Back in his old life, this was the default setting. No strength, no cash, just a bunch of assholes thinking they were better. And now, different life, different rules. No more punching bag. Out of nowhere, Kella cranks up his mana, and the entire room chokes on the pressure. Not just a flex, this is a full-on aura beatdown. Rude, for all his trash talk, locks up like a broken action figure. The guy's feet might as well be cemented to the floor. Even the bystanders, The ones who are laughing start backing off. The pressure alone is wrecking them. Kella tightens his fist and swings. One punch. That's all it takes. Rude gets slammed into the ground like a rag doll. No defense, no counter, no reaction time. He's just done. Teeth shattered, horns cracked, blood leaking across the floor. Silence hits the room like a bomb. Every mouth that was flapping earlier is now wide open in shock. Even the teacher starts sweating bullets. This wasn't a duel. This was a message. Kella stands over what's left of Rude with zero emotion. He's not here to play classroom games. He's not some throwaway kid anymore. He's the son of the Demon King, and he's done entertaining disrespect. Anyone who talks down on royalty, on him, better be ready to pay for it. Rude coughs out some pathetic apology, just trying to stay alive. Kella locks eyes with him. One final glare sharp enough to burn itself into memory. The message is loud and clear. Don't test him again. Meanwhile, the sidelines? Yeah, full panic mode. The same clowns who used to throw shade at Kella are now sweating bullets. They can't even process what they just saw. 1 minute he was the class loser. Now he's the main event. Guy went from bullied to boss in record time. Even the teacher's standing there like he just realized he's been assigning homework to a potential warlord. Kella turns to him, cold and clear, demanding the class be run properly. No more games. No more favoritism. Off to the side, Rin watches everything unfold, completely stunned. This wasn't the Kella she thought she knew. There's something off, something deeper going on, and for the first time, she can feel it. High above, from the balcony, the Demon King watches silently. Over in Hell Calden's castle, the siblings were gathered, radiating pure irritation. Seldara was seething, still furious that the little brat had the audacity to fling poisoned soup at her face. Tar hadn't forgotten the humiliation either. He told her to cool off and focus on recovery, but she wasn't having it. Unlike Kella, she couldn't just snap her fingers and heal like Wolverine on steroids, and that fact alone made her 10 times angrier. She went off, ranting about how unfair it was that only that little punk got blessed with cheat code regeneration. Tarm couldn't shake the feeling that something about Kella had shifted. That moment when Kella flipped the dinner table and coldly announced that everyone would eat in their rooms from now on. Yeah, that stuck. Especially the part where their stone-faced father actually smiled. That smile hit harder than anything. The guy had been emotionally bankrupt for centuries, and suddenly he's grinning over Kella's rebellion. That alone was enough to break Seldara's last brain cell. Tarm felt the same way. He had no intention of ever siding with Kella, but things were spiraling fast. The only logical move now was to work together and take Kella down before it was too late. Seldara didn't need convincing. She was more than ready to shut her little brother down before he stole their father's attention again. Meanwhile, Kella was dealing with a whole different kind of nightmare, a classroom lesson. Just when he thought he could zone out, the teacher decided to traumatize the room by flashing a giant hologram of Turk Haldun, the former Demon King and all-around terrifying guy. One look at Turk, and Kella wanted to uninstall reality. The teacher went on, explaining how Turk had once been the strongest demon of his era, only to fall to a cowardly scheme from the Heaven Guild. Since then, the guilds had been creeping in closer, desperate to be the ones to wipe the demons out. Kella already knew the history. His memories were a mess, but one thing was clear: those guild bastards were the reason he'd never known freedom. Life in this cursed castle had been hell. The teacher pushed harder, telling the students they needed to pour their souls into combat training. The whole class shouted their loyalty like mindless drones. Kella just stayed silent. Later, perched at the highest spot in the castle like some brooding anime protagonist, Kella stared out over their cursed territory. Escape was the only thing on his mind. If he stuck around too long, one of his backstabbing siblings would probably off him in his sleep and call a family tradition. Rin had told him their father would be out on another hero hunt in 3 days. That was his window. Kella asked her about the castle's biggest weakness. Rin didn't get why he was suddenly dead serious, but she admitted she didn't know. Kella did. There was no map maker, no one to chart the battlefield. The guilds were exploiting that blind spot, creeping in through the neglected outskirts while the demons stood clueless. Kella had no intention of letting that continue. He wasn't about to waste time. Before Daddy Dearest rode off into another bloodbath, Kella planned to chart the whole region himself. No one expected it from him, which made it perfect. While the old Kella had failed repeatedly to escape this place, this version had a better shot and more freedom than he ever had in his past life. Without missing a beat, he He turned to Rin and told her to get a secret office set up in the castle basement. He needed a place to work in secret. Back at the demon castle, the Demon King already seems one step ahead. Kella's little escape plan hasn't gone unnoticed. The king knows his father's gaze doesn't miss much, and with time slipping away, he moves to set his own strategy in motion. Cut to Kella, standing in what was supposed to be his secret hideout. Except, it's not exactly giving royal vibes. More like a broom closet with a personality crisis. The so-called office looks like it's been collecting dust since the last century. Rin, bless her panicking heart, starts tearing up. Turns out this was the best she could scrounge up under strict keep it secret or die conditions. Kella doesn't go easy on her. His tone sharpens, his presence shifts. He's using this moment to draw a clear line. Master and servant. No more old dynamics. The shift is real, and Rin feels it. The guy who used to stumble through his words now carries himself like royalty. Cold, sharp, commanding. It's unnerving, but weirdly attractive, and she even gets turned on. Kella barks another order, coffee. Of all things. She snaps out of her daze and takes off like she's racing for a promotion. Halfway down the hallway, reality slaps her. Coffee doesn't even exist here. Now she's just a girl sprinting through an ancient demon castle on a quest for a mythical beverage that nobody's ever heard of. And then bad timing hits. The Demon King shows up, standing in her path like the final boss of a terrible day. He's not buying the Lost Maid act. Wants to know what she's doing skulking around the basement without Kella. Also wants to know where Kella actually is. Rin's brain short-circuits. She was strictly told to keep his hideout top secret. But under the weight of the king's stare, her silence is starting to crack. Meanwhile, Kella's having the time of his life, sketching out the map like it's second nature. He's focused, in the zone, completely enjoying himself as he charts the terrain. Then the front gate explodes, just as luck. His father storms in, furious after finding out Kella built a secret office without reporting it. Kella doesn't even get a second to explain. His father drives a punch straight into his gut, dropping him instantly. This wasn't some casual scolding. His father wasn't angry because of his secrecy. He was pissed because Kella chose to hide underground and scheme instead of facing things head on. The pain's on another level. Not the usual beatings his siblings cry about. This one's real. Deep. If this keeps going, he knows he's done for. Before it gets worse, Kella throws the map forward. His father freezes, looking down like he just got handed a coloring book. Kella starts rattling off details like a parrot on caffeine. Apparently, the castle's outer terrain is trash for combat. But if they restructure things according to the map, they'll finally have some leverage against the guilds. No spells, no armies, just smarter geography. The Demon King listens, slowly putting the pieces together. He lowers his hand, though. He still doesn't get why Kella went full spy mode. Kella shrugs it off with the kind of answer only he could give. Marching in all proud and loud would have been too damn arrogant. Better to let the results do the talking. With the point made, Kella asked to officially join the fight against Heaven's forces. Meanwhile, Rin's off to the side, looking like she's watching a suicide mission in slow motion. She's practically sweating bullets watching Kella stand there so casually in front of the Demon King. But the king doesn't explode. He just asks how long the map will take. Kella lights up, throwing up 5 fingers. His father takes it the wrong way, assumes it's 5 days. Kella immediately clears it up. Just 5 hours. That's all he needs to finish the revisions and get construction moving before the war hits. The Demon King stares for a moment, then cracks a rare smile. He gives Kella full clearance, but not without a classic death threat attached. If Kella turns out to be full of hot air, he's dead. Simple deal. With that, the Demon King walks off. Kella finally lets the pain catch up. The punch wrecked him. He vomits, barely keeping upright. As brutal as it was, one thing stuck in his mind. If he hadn't proved himself, his own father would have killed him without hesitation. Rin watches quietly, caught between shock and admiration. Somehow, her reckless master just got the Demon King on board. Of course, her moment's short-lived. She gets scolded for standing around like a statue and is told to get Kella to the medical room. Just like Kella promised, he cranks out that map in a lightning-fast 5 hours. The Demon King's forces? They're already on it, gathering troops and throwing up construction like it's a weekend DIY project. Meanwhile, the mages are messing with reality, slapping illusion magic all over the place, so the enemy won't catch wind of what's really cooking behind the scenes. Of course, Kella's map? Another total slam dunk. Dude got a perfect record on these things. Cut to the Heaven Guild's war room. Guildmaster Hermazin is laying down the facts like a boss. The demons are reshaping the terrain to their advantage. And yeah, they've caught on to the whole illusion magic hustle. One eager junior pipes up, asking if they should just jump in and wreck the demons' prep party now. Hermes just shoots that down like it's a bad joke. The clock's against them, and launching an attack now would be a wasted move. The only play is to stick to the original strategy. In 3 days, the strongest squad Talua has ever produced, the elite Talcan, will arrive. Talua has been building this squad for decades, perfecting it, and now it's finally at its peak. Hermazin is sure those stubborn demons won't stand a chance. With Talcan hitting the field, the great Demon King's days are numbered. Meanwhile, Talcan is tearing through the landscape at full throttle, aiming to hit the demon castle in 2 days flat. Leading the hype train is General Killman. Dude so fired up he might just set his horse on fire. He's rallying his squad like they're about to throw the party of the century. Except the party's a total demolition of the Demon King's 1,000-year reign. The troops? Equally hyped, ready to torch that castle and turn those demons into nothing but bad memories. Below them, riding fast, is Shrills, the army commander, watching Killman with pride. When her sidekick doubts if the Demon King can actually be beaten this time, she's certain. Talcan isn't just another guild. Taking down the Demon King and his fortress is only a matter of time. Back to the Demon King, he's surprisingly calm, even pleased, knowing just how effective Kella's map is. It's not perfect, but it's better than nothing. His body's nearing its limits, and options are running dry. Tomorrow is the day he plans to settle the score with Heaven once and for all. Mages and demons work feverishly to finish construction before the deadline. Kella watches the progress, feeling the stark difference between mapping out terrain in a game and actually reshaping real-world geography. Still, there's a rush to it, the thrill of bending land and reality to his will. All that's left now is to wait. Tomorrow will show just how powerful his map really is. The day of the battle finally arrives. The forces of heaven have gathered, and Talcan's squad reaches their camp. Soldiers chant Talcan's name, revering the power he commands. Guildmaster Hermazin meets with Commander Killman, who's itching to march straight into the Demon King's territory and end this war once and for all. The old man is ready to move. Before the march begins, the soldiers raise their hands and unleash a unified battle cry. Suddenly, out of nowhere, a tiny blue orb pops up at Killman and Hermazин's feet, blowing up into some crazy portal. Killman isn't having any of it. He bellows orders for everyone to lock down and brace for whatever surprise is coming. From that swirling mess, the Demon King himself, Hel Kaldun, strolls out like he's late for a casual meetup. To understand why the Demon King shows up on the front lines, we flash back. Kella tells his father he's removed the barrier that once locked Heaven's surveillance magic on their castle. This means the Demon King can now teleport freely, unseen. Soon enough, the Demon King's going to be chilling right in the heart of Heaven's base. His daughter protests. Teleporting straight into enemy territory is reckless. Tarm agrees, calling it too dangerous even for their mighty father. The Demon King doesn't take this criticism lightly. It feels like an attack on his authority. His intense glare shakes his children. What they're really saying is he hasn't fully recovered and should avoid risks, but he silences them cold. Only he decides what's right or wrong. The plan is set. The assault will begin in the center of Heaven's base. Back in the present, the Demon King vows to annihilate every last enemy. Killman's resolve matches that promise. He orders Talcan's squad to open fire, determined to make the Demon King regret stepping onto their ground. Meanwhile, Kella moves his forces into position, giving the signal to charge. The army roars forward, Heaven's soldiers casting offensive magic to meet them. But then, out of nowhere, hordes of demons burst from the ground, latching onto the humans in a brutal surprise attack. Kella watches from above. Despite the chaos and bloodshed, a smile creeps across his face. Everything is going exactly as planned. Then, his worst nightmare arrives, his siblings. They aren't here to share glory. They're here to take it. Kella's time is up. Tarm whips his weird tentacle thing right into Kella's gut, twisting it deeper. Seldar is on cue, charging in with his sword, and slices Kella's head off like butter. The siblings smirk like they just won the lottery, tossing Kella's head through the air. Sure, he's got insane regeneration powers, but even that won't save him this time. Kella Kaldun's head flew clean off his body, blood spraying everywhere. His lifeless frame tumbled over the castle wall, crashing onto the ground below. The earth was quickly stained red, his flickering life slipping away with a muffled sound. Meanwhile, his traitorous siblings, Tarm and Seldura, were standing above, grinning like maniacs. Just as Tarm turned to rush to their father's aid, Seldura seized the moment and stabbed him in his weakest spot. The damage was lethal. Without missing a beat, she leapt back, eyes sharp, catching her quick-witted brother off guard. Tarm's eyes went wide when he spotted their mom's forbidden weapon in Seldura's hand. Rules? Demons don't give a damn about rules. Seldura is all about winning, kill or be killed. If she wipes out her last competition now, she's the undisputed heir. As Tarm bled out, rage-fueled, he charged, trying to drag Seldura down with him. But the moment the forbidden blade pierced him, it was over. On the rooftop, as the two clashed, their beheaded little brother's fading life watched, unable to escape the dark reality of how twisted these two really were. His final breath left the world, the ground beneath him suddenly giving way. Lucky for him, his loyal servant Rin was right below. Girl's got nerves of steel. She grabbed his head and body, yanked them out of sight, and shoved the pieces back together like some dark magic mechanic. Shivering but determined, she wasn't about to let her boss die on her watch. Meanwhile, the demon army surged toward the teleportation portals, ready to launch a surprise attack on Heaven's flank. The humans, prepared for this move, awaited calmly. Still, the demons charged without hesitation. They thrived in direct combat and saw no turning back. While the foot soldiers duked it out in a skirmish that barely mattered, the real party started when a massive, fucking dragon showed up. It had been ages since Demon King Hel Kaldun tangled with a mythical beast like this, but he treated it like a stray lizard. With one brutal yank, he ripped the dragon's head clean off before it even got a chance to strike once. General Killman basically lost his mind. Killing the dragon was supposed to be their trump card, their secret weapon. Panic hit hard, and he ordered the mage brigade to dump every ounce of mana they had on the Demon King. After an apocalyptic magical bombardment, Killman held his breath, hoping they'd done enough damage to put Hel Kaldun down for good. Then, the temperature dropped, and every human soldier got chills down their spine. From the rubble, Hel Kaldun rose, twisting and transforming into something straight-up terrifying, power radiating off him like a damn nuclear blast. The Demon King was showing off his final form. Killman had read ancient texts about this transformation. Few had ever seen it and lived to tell the tale. The soldiers looked to their leaders, frozen like deer in headlights. Commander Srills fought tooth and nail to keep morale from nosediving. But even Killman felt the cold grip of terror creeping in, threatening to shut him down completely. The Demon King had to admit, Kella's master plan looked shiny on the outside, but even diamonds have cracks. Sure, storming the heart of Heaven's base sounded badass on paper, until you realized it was basically a suicide mission. Box yourself in, kill, or get killed, great odds, really. But Hel wasn't the type to sweat details when there was aura to farm. Golden opportunity? He was already sharpening his sword. Zero-sum games were kind of his thing anyway. If someone had to lose, it damn sure wasn't going to be him. Deep down, he had this weird suspicion that his son had factored in his overblown pride too. Tossing out any stray thoughts that didn't involve murder, Hel focused on the usual solution. Mow down everything that breathes. Simple, reliable, therapeutic even. As he shifted into his stance, Killman started yelling warnings to the troops like it'd make a difference. Too late. Hel was already charging, eyes blazing like a man with nothing to lose and everything to kill. Meanwhile, back in the castle's basement, things were looking a little less violent and a lot more pathetic. Rin hadn't moved an inch, still clutching her half-dead master like some kind of emotional support corpse. She was praying to every deity in the multiverse, hoping one of them was feeling generous enough to stitch Kella back together. Not long ago, the psycho had made her help with field tests, where he casually ripped his own limbs off and asked her to glue them back on. Lovely bonding moments. Gross? Yes. Effective? Unfortunately, also yes. Healing a severed arm now took like 5 seconds. But Kella wasn't satisfied with just arms and legs. He had bigger goals, like surviving a clean decapitation. Because that's what sane people aim for, apparently. And of course, all of that insanity had a purpose. Rin did exactly what she was told. Dropped some spicy fake intel into Seldura's servant's ear. Word was the only way to bypass Kella's broken Regan was to slice off his head. All part of the setup. Now, back in the basement, she could only grit her teeth. The plan worked. Every insane step played out perfectly. But none of it would matter if the idiot noble didn't wake up. Just when her fear peaked, the wound across his neck faded, skin sealing, color returning. The lunatic had survived. He hadn't expected to. The mana-laced dagger had slowed down his healing. For a moment, even he thought he was finished. But now that his body was back in action, it was time to move on. Rin, overwhelmed, threw her arms around him. Kella froze, flustered, completely unprepared for that kind of emotion, something he hadn't dealt with in either of his lives. He pushed her away, trying to regroup, trying to think. There was still a plan to follow. But first, he severed the servant contract. Permanently. Rin was free. No more chains. No more forced loyalty. Just freedom. The gesture hit her harder than she expected. For the first time in her life, she was told to live for herself with no strings attached. Watching him move with quiet resolve made her chest ache. She remembered the boy he once was, the one who didn't want a servant, just a friend. Looking back on how she treated him over the years only filled her with guilt. So she made her choice. She begged him to take her back. And when he said no, she ignored it and followed him anyway, disappearing with him into the castle's secret tunnels. Back at the main stage, General Killman looked like he just lost a bet with death and kept losing. One eye missing, body shredded, barely able to stand. Meanwhile, the Demon King, Hel Kaldun, wasn't exactly thriving either. Guy had lost an arm and took enough hits to flatten a mountain, but somehow, still standing, still soloing. Killman knew it was over. No point pretending. Against a monster like that, no human could win. Not alone. Maybe not even together. Looking around, Hel Kaldun saw the battlefield was a graveyard. Human forces were wiped out. His own soldiers were gone too. This was the end of the line. He thought of his children. Not a single one came to help. But he didn't dwell on it. This was his fight from the start, and he accepted that. With what little mana he had left, he was ready to blow everything away in one final strike. Meanwhile, our favorite escape duo, Kella and Rin, finally reached the tunnel's end. Light ahead. Freedom. No demon castle eyes watching. Kella had tunnel vision so bad he almost walked straight into a magical death trap. Classic. Thankfully, Rin wasn't just there for decoration. She jumped in, summoned a shield, and blocked the whole mess like a pro. She'd caught the scent of blood, which meant stealth mode was over. Heaven's assassins came out of hiding like bugs from under a rock. They'd been waiting, parked in the tunnels, just in case demons try to bail. And surprise, surprise, they even knew about this backdoor. Overprepared much? These weren't your run-of-the-mill hitmen. Their mission was simple. Wipe out every last trace of the Demon King's lineage. From a distance, they rained spells like confetti at a disaster party. Rin's shield took hit after hit, barely holding up. She didn't care. Protecting Kella was her one job, and she was ready to die doing it. Too bad, Kella knew her limits. Girl was a solid wall, but that wall was cracking. Defense magic was all she had. Offense? Non-existent. She'd saved him twice already and was clearly planning to make it a hat trick, even if it meant throwing herself in front of every hit. Noble, sure. Smart? Not really. So Kella did what any suddenly not-so-weak demon prince would do. Grabbed her by the shoulder, tossed her aside, and stepped forward. Enough was enough. The assassins laughed. According to their precious little intel, Kella was a pushover. Weak. Mid-tier magic at best. Easy kill. Yeah, that intel aged like milk. See, Kella used to be soft. Power with no bite. That changed the moment someone new took the wheel. The human soul inside him wasn't here to play it safe. First punch, one assassin down. No fancy moves. Just brute force and zero hesitation. Another try to beg. Wrong move. Crushed like a bug. Heaven mages aren't supposed to be easy to kill. But Kella made them look like practice dummies. Now the rest of the cloaked crew was sweating. He turned his bloodlust on them like flicking a switch. Panic mode activated. Backed into a corner, they went for the big guns. Light spear. It's a flashy move. Pool all your mana for one massive hit. If it fails, say goodbye to your organs. But if it works hard. Rin saw what was coming. She tried to stop him, but it was already too late. The spears landed. Multiple. Clean hits. Both of them were impaled. Kella froze. Body paralyzed. Mana disrupted. Rin was hit too, caught by a petrifying spell. She muttered an apology under her breath for failing again. The mages were spent, but pleased. Their spell worked. They drew their blades, calm and cocky, ready to finish the job. One of them joked about collecting a reward, suggested the restrained servant would be fun to play with before they wrapped up. But Rin didn't flinch. She stared them down, all fire, no fear. Kella watched. This was his first real look at the humans of this world. Same as before, still disgusting, still capable of the worst. And right now, their attention was back on him. The lead mage stepped forward, coating his blade with mana. Kella was just a dozen steps from freedom when the blade came down. Beheaded, yet still conscious. He couldn't fall here, not when he was this close. As the execution struck, time itself slammed to a halt. Everything froze. Something was coming. When his eyes opened again, the figure standing before him was none other than his father's avatar. At first glance, he assumed the Demon King had already ended the war, which would have completely wrecked his carefully laid plans for liberation. But that wasn't the case. Hel Kaldun, the Demon King, stood with absolute calm, addressing his son with rare sincerity. He'd seen more battles than most could imagine, calculated every possibility, and dissected every outcome. In his eyes, Seldra was just an entitled brat who lacked any real concern for the demon race. And Tarm was even worse, completely devoid of ambition. Kella, still stunned, tried to grasp what the hell was going on. But Hel wasn't interested in answering. He simply stated the facts. A demon king could pass his mana to his bloodline right before death, and that moment had arrived. No debate, no discussion. Kella was the chosen one. Despite knowing it would screw up everything he'd built, he had no choice. The Demon King had already decided. Hel compressed every last drop of mana into a dark orb and forced it into his heir. Against his will, Kella took it, felt it burned through him like a black sun. Hel, with that cold, familiar look, made it clear. No mourning, no weakness, just power, like a true demon. Back on the battlefield, Hel Kaldun's severed head dropped to the ground. Commander Srills could barely speak. The Demon King was dead. General Killman had given his life to make it happen, and the desperate gamble had paid off. The humans roared in victory, celebrating what they thought was the end. They had no idea what was actually happening. At that exact moment, Kella was fusing with the royal demonic power. As the mana surged into him, the holy spears pinning him and Rin disintegrated like cheap glass. The mages felt it instantly. His energy skyrocketed, and for the first time, they were genuinely afraid. Kella laughed, loud and unhinged. Everything had lined up perfectly. Hel was gone. The throne, the power, it was all his now. Infinite strength, no strings attached. The mages scrambled, panicking as their own mana reserves dried up. Kella stood still, sensing the vast, terrifying void inside him. Hel's power wasn't just overwhelming. It was bottomless, a force beyond reason. It pulsed through his veins like liquid night, too big to contain, too potent to fully control. As the mages backed away, shaking, Kella stared them down. These were the same cowards who hurled filth at Rin minutes ago. He didn't forget. Sure, he was a demon by blood, but humans had a real talent for acting like monsters when it suited them. With Hel's power backing him, wiping out these second-rate mages was barely an effort. They weren't a challenge, they were cleanup. The strength came at a cost, though. His body wasn't built for it. Not yet. Every time he tapped into the mana, it pushed him closer to the edge. Still, he held steady. After checking Rin was unharmed, the two of them turned their backs on the wreckage. Whatever else Hel was, a tyrant, a manipulator, a terrible father, Kella acknowledged one thing. This escape? It was only possible because of him. As the Demon King's castle blazed behind them, the two walked across a green field. For the first time in his life, Kella felt a genuine sense of freedom. From here on out, the possibilities were endless. He could go anywhere, be anyone, and live the life he truly wanted. While he soaked in that feeling of liberation, a strange energy began to gather around him and then completely engulfed his body. Rin quickly recognized the magical shift as a teleportation spell. Without thinking, Kella grabbed her hand, determined to bring her with him to wherever the spell would lead. Rin didn't hesitate. She hardened her resolve to follow him, no matter where that was. They were being taken to a land where magic and innovation flourished, but they didn't know that yet. When they arrived, both of them were completely unaware of their new location. At first, Rin assumed that Kella had cast the teleportation spell, but he quickly denied it. He believed it was an automatic spell, most likely triggered like an alarm, something his father had prepared in case he fell in battle. Not only had they been transported to an unfamiliar place, but every injury they carried had been fully healed. Based on Kella's guess, they had spent about 3 days in the teleportation space. He figured the Demon King had deliberately set that time limit and added a healing enchantment for emergencies. Pulling off 2 high-level spells like that was no small task. Only someone incredibly skilled could manage it. He might have been a terrible father, but Helcaldun clearly cared about his children's survival. As Rin pieced everything together, she confirmed what Kella had already suspected. The Demon King was dead. Kella gave a satisfied smirk, pleased that his plan had played out so smoothly. With the throne now in ashes, Rin suggested that her master take his father's place and become the next Demon King. Of course, that was the last thing Kella wanted. But Rin had witnessed just how much he had changed in the past few days. To her, he was now the rightful heir to the Demon King's legacy. She swore to stand by him and support him in every way possible until he accepted the throne, no matter what it took. Kella let out a sigh and, realizing he didn't have the resources to argue, allowed her to do as she wished for now. After walking for a few minutes, they finally stumbled upon their first clue about where they'd landed. Judging by the architecture around them, it became clear they were in Arsal, the country of magic, a place where magical talent is cultivated solely to wipe out demons. As the central hub of magic, Arsal was in the middle of celebrating the downfall of the Demon King Hell, praising the light of Talua. The two were immediately confused. Why would the teleportation spell drop them right into the heart of enemy territory? If they were discovered as demons here, things would end badly. Thinking quickly, Rin used transformation magic to disguise her demonic traits, now appearing as a normal, albeit stunning, young woman. Kella followed her lead, transforming himself into a punk with a dyed mullet. Since he knew nothing about Arsal, he asked Rin to fill him in. She explained that Arsal was a small island nation on Talua's eastern border, blessed by a colossal cryptid named Water Gore, who lived nearby. The presence of this creature had naturally accelerated magical development in the region, turning it into a haven for powerful mages. More importantly, the nation had a deep, bloody history of war with demons under Talua's banner. Kella couldn't wrap his head around why his father would send him to a place like this. He naturally wanted to get out of there as soon as possible, but running off without a plan wouldn't help, and if he was serious about achieving his bigger goals in this world, learning magic was essential. There was no better place to deepen his understanding than this city saturated with magic, where arcane energy was woven into everyday life. Some buildings even ran entirely on magic. If he could study magic here, he could take better advantage of his gaming knowledge. But first, they needed to eat. After all, they had just spent 3 whole days floating in space. Thankfully, Arsal was bustling with trade, and food carts filled every corner of the town square. Once Rin tasted the nation's famous enchanted pastries, she was hooked. One bite was enough to turn her into an addict, and so much for laying low. She dragged Kella from cart to cart, sampling anything that looked tasty. Kella was honestly debating whether to leave her behind in the streets. After an entire day of feasting, they finally found a magical bar to relax in. Inside, people were partying hard, celebrating the Demon King's defeat. Leading the revelry was none other than Commander Srills of Tolkien, who was generously footing the bill for everyone. The crowd cheered for Arsal's greatest mage, while Kella and Rin, already buzzed after a few drinks, joined in on the fun with the humans. Kella started to think maybe taking a breather once in a while wasn't such a bad thing. Their carefree moment didn't last long. The victorious commander took notice of the odd pair for reasons unknown. A few drinks later, Kella had to bowl out of the bar to puke. He'd overdone it. Meanwhile, Rin, sobering up a bit, started to feel a bit uneasy. It felt wrong celebrating the death of the Demon King while being demons themselves. Suddenly, a commotion broke out in the square. People were rushing toward the castle wall, excited about a brand new S-rank quest that had just been posted. The previous one, which involved slaying the Demon King, had barely ended, yet a new target was already announced. Curious, Rin dragged the still nauseous Kella to go check it out. There it was, a bounty poster on the castle wall for none other than the Demon King's son. And the reward? Absolutely massive. It was clear the humans were going all out this time, determined to end a royal bloodline once and for all. Kella nearly let his identity slip in his drunken haze, but Rin quickly stopped him. The general public believed Kella to be the weakest among the Demon King's offspring, which meant hunters could earn S-rank rewards for what was essentially a B-rank target. The thought alone was enough to send every mercenary on the continent into a frenzy. But the cruel insults hurled by the crowd sobered Kella up instantly. He knew right then. He needed to be cautious and stay under the radar. Playing it safe was the only smart move for now. As the master and servant left the town square, Rin turned to her master and asked what she should call him in public. After all, using his real name out in the open wasn't exactly safe. After thinking for a moment, he told her to call him Chi Wu. The name lacked any grandeur, and Rin couldn't help feeling a little let down. Still, that S-rank bounty being displayed for everyone to see was bad news. Chi Wu had already given up the idea of staying in Arsal any longer. Just then, as they were discussing the newly posted S-rank quest, a slightly drunk commander named Shrills interrupted them, mug of alcohol in hand. Kella didn't know her personally, but just from her aura alone, he could tell this woman was dangerous. Around the tavern, people referred to her as the Hope of Arsal. She openly insulted the surviving son of a demon king, and Kella had no choice but to swallow his pride and go along with the trash talk. Being caught by her would be an absolute nightmare. Looking at the duo with intrigue, Shrills casually threw her arms around them and asked point-blank if the demon king's son would really be a problem. Inside the tavern, she noticed something strange. These two smelled different from everyone else. Just as the master and servant began to panic, thinking their cover had been blown, the commander hit them with an unexpected comment. She only pointed them out because they smelled like travelers who hadn't bathed in a while. In a bizarre twist of generosity, she invited them to her place to wash up and enjoy more drinks. Kella and Rin exchanged a puzzled look and reluctantly agreed, not wanting to come off as suspicious. And so, they ended up heading to the home of Arsal's Hope, and were more or less trapped there. Surprisingly, Kella found himself genuinely enjoying the experience. The red-headed commander really did offer a soothing hot spring bath, along with a warm cup of tea and some delicious, unfamiliar snacks. Judging by the taste, they were likely enhanced with magic. Kella couldn't help but think this was the kind of fantasy life he'd always dreamed of. For the first time since arriving in this world, Chi Wu felt like he was actually living the dream. Clean, full, tipsy, and possessing the power of the Demon King. This whole ice guy deal wasn't looking so bad. Meanwhile, in another bath, Rin was shivering, not from cold but fear. Sitting beside her was Commander Shrills, who seemed very proud of her large, luxurious bathtub. She jokingly told Rin to quit acting so tense, or people might start thinking she was a demon. Rin forced a laugh, try not to panic. Then, Shrills made a motion with her fingers, releasing a sweet-smelling scent into the air. Rin immediately recognized the fragrance. It was the essence of the holy element. For demons, it was more than just unpleasant. It actively weakened them, draining their demonic energy. If Rin stayed in that bath any longer, her disguise spell would unravel. She wanted to call out to her master for help, but he was too busy relaxing, sipping tea like nothing was wrong. Oddly enough, the commander began confiding in Rin, someone she'd just met. She shared that she believed all her struggles would vanish once the Demon King was dead. Rin, barely able to breathe through the holy stench, just wanted to escape. But Shrills kept talking, saying she had been raised and designed to become the ultimate mage. Finally, Rin couldn't take it anymore. She abruptly interrupted and excused herself, pretending she had to use the bathroom. Shrills leaned against the edge of the tub with an odd smirk, her body glistening. Rin quickly got dressed and rushed to meet Kella in the hallway. While Kella had never felt so at peace, Rin was on the verge of losing her cover. Her disguise spell was nearly broken, and she was certain the commander was getting suspicious. That scent wasn't just for show. It was a holy-based detection spell only advanced mages could cast. Still oblivious to how serious things were, Kella wondered if he had time for another dip before they fled. Noticing Rin's unease, Shrills closed the tub and asked if her guests were really turning down a second round. Rin awkwardly tried to deflect her intense stare. Shrills then conjured a mana orb and offered to prepare more magical dishes and drinks for them. Kella, curious about food magic, was easily tempted into staying for another round with the fiery commander. But outside the mansion, trouble was brewing. A group of mages had started to gather, acting on fresh intel about a demon hiding inside. And according to their sources, it wasn't just any demon. It was the Demon King's own child. For the mages, this was a once-in-a-lifetime chance to make it big. In the living room, Shrills was proudly boasting about her holy water drink, forcing her disguised demon guest to gulp it down without so much as flinching, despite the intense burning sensation it caused. With a hollow expression, She circled back to the conversation she'd started with Rin earlier in the bathtub, continuing her emotional outpouring. She spoke of how she'd joined the Talcon squad, putting her life on the line in training with the single goal of killing the Demon King. The countless scars she bore were a testament to her efforts, though she'd used magic to conceal them, which is why Rin hadn't noticed before. Truthfully, she was even missing an eye, and a harsh, disfiguring scar ran down the right side of her face, left from when it had been gouged. Over time, the commander had grown used to masking these flaws with magic, as seeing them only brought back painful memories. As a child soldier, she and others her age had been raised to hate the Demon King. They were shaped into a unit created solely for the mission of overthrowing Hel Kaldon. They were taught to endure every kind of suffering in pursuit of that objective. Little by little, she was molded by their ideology, and without even realizing it, her entire life had become devoted to a single cause. All she had to show for it were the scars. Suddenly curious, she climbed onto Kella, straddling him and lifting his shirt to inspect whether he bore similar marks. But as her hand brushed over his smooth, unblemished skin, a wild glint appeared in her eyes. Rin's warning instincts kicked in, and so did Kella's. Shrill's touch had not only caught them off guard, but was also beginning to strip away Kella's disguise. She leaned in and whispered into his ear, asking directly if he was a filthy demon. It was clear now. This woman had known the truth about them from the very beginning. Just then, rats came scrambling out of the fireplace, but they were immediately incinerated by the intruders, mages from Arsal, judging by their appearance. It seemed Shrills had brought them into her home to trap the disguised duo. Yet surprisingly, the mages didn't focus on the two of them. Instead, their attention was fixed on the scar on Shrill's face. According to them, a divine message had revealed that the so-called Hope of Arsal was hiding her real identity. Shrills of Talcand was, in fact, a demon who had infiltrated Arsal. Even after being accused, Shrill showed no signs of being rattled. Kella, meanwhile, was getting dizzy from all the revelations. The mages didn't seem interested in hunting him anymore. They were targeting the hero who had once slain the Demon King. With nothing left to hide, Shrill summoned her dark scepter using magic. She calmly admitted that she herself had leaked her secret. Now that the truth was out, that she was a demon, there was no reason to hold back. The mages unleashed their strongest spells all at once. But while she may be a demon, Shrill's was also Talcon's most formidable mage. A handful of mediocre Arsal mages didn't stand a chance against even one of her caliber. Fearing they'd be caught in a magical chaos, Rin pleaded with her master to get out of the way. But before either of them could move, a dark explosion swallowed the entire living room. Dense waves of mana burst in every direction. And yet, when the black smoke lifted, both master and servant stood unharmed. Shrills had effortlessly deflected the overwhelming barrage of spells, without even breaking a sweat. The mysterious commander of Talcand had just protected them. She had known they were demons all along. There was no way they could have hidden their scent from her. To ease their nerves, she finally introduced herself properly. Shrills Kaldon, daughter of the Demon King Hel Kaldon. That bombshell left both Kella and his servant completely stunned. Wanting to save time, Shrills conjured a small thread of mana and used memory transfer magic to explain everything. Suddenly, the duo's vision was overtaken by a memory from the past. It showed the Demon King and one of his loyal aides on the day they finally succeeded in creating a demon who could suppress her horns and demonic aura. That demon was a young Shrills, who looked up in awe at the absolute ruler standing before her. He told her that his blood ran through her veins, and from that day forward, she would bear his name as his daughter. Until then, she had been nothing more than one of the many secret test subjects raised in hidden labs. Her life had been nothing short of torture, each day a nightmare, constantly experimented on by ruthless demons. All she could do was clench her teeth and endure, praying for a better future. One by one, every child in that underground facility perished, leaving her as the only survivor. She believed her turn would come soon, but her fate changed when Hel Kaldon chose her, adopted her, and gave her purpose. Her heart swelled with pride and joy. That was the day she was named Shrills Kaldon. Along with her new name came a mission. She would serve as a spy, infiltrating the Heaven Guild to extract valuable information. If it was for her father, the Demon King, she was ready to do absolutely anything. Her infiltration began by pretending to be a wounded helpless child near Arsal. The mages who found her believed she had been attacked by demons and immediately brought her in for treatment. That marked the beginning of her double life as a spy. Over time, she climbed the ranks in Arsal, eventually becoming a respected mage in Talua. Her journey was filled with hardship, but she pushed through it all with unwavering resolve. After 15 long years of living undercover, she finally got to see her father again, on the battlefield. Every part of her wanted to run to him, to throw her arms around him. But she held herself back. She knew she had to wait. Wait until everyone except General Killman was dead. Her position on the flank allowed her to secretly sabotage the Talcan squad using her magic. As long as Killman lived, her mission wasn't complete. Once Talcan was wiped out, only then could she return to the Demon King and finally live openly as Shrill's Khaldun. But the battle didn't unfold the way she had hoped. Both Killman and the Demon King commended each other for surpassing expectations. Khaldun, prideful and dominant, was slightly insulted to be praised by a human. Then Killman revealed his final trump card, his ultimate move, the Spear of Heaven's Martyrs. The Demon King responded with his own finishing technique, the Hellfire of Magnalexer. As these two powers clashed, Shrill's had a terrible feeling. In that moment, she heard her father's voice clearly for the first time in 15 years. He called her by name, his daughter, and gave her one last order, to serve the next Demon King with the same loyalty and to protect their bloodline until her last breath. Tears welled in her eyes as the overwhelming explosion of heaven and hell swallowed everything. When the smoke cleared, all that remained was the severed head of the Demon King, lifeless, cold. Shrill's broke down, unable to hold her grief any longer. But as she stood there mourning, reinforcements arrived to clean up the battlefield, forcing her to resume her role and return to Talua. The man who meant everything to her was gone, and while she silently mourned, the rest of the continent rejoiced. After ages of defeat, the humans had finally scored a major victory. From that day forward, Shrill's made a choice. She would retire and settle down in Arsal, the only place that ever felt remotely like home. But this wasn't the end. It was just the beginning. Arsal would be her base for the next phase, a plan for vengeance. Her mission now is to erase the entire country of magic from existence. Rin was torn, while Kella felt a sinking weight in his stomach. He thought he'd finally escaped the chaos of dealing with insane siblings, but clearly he was wrong. Even if they weren't fully related by blood, having another sibling just meant another storm waiting to happen. Snapping him out of his thoughts, Shrill stated she wouldn't force Kella or Rin to join her, despite all being demons. Still, she firmly believed that Arsal was a major threat to all demonkin. The longer that magical center was allowed to thrive, the worse things would get. And sooner or later, her brother, Khaldun, the last hope of demonkind, would be dead. Her words made sense. Even in the game, Chiwu had seen how crucial mages were in times of war. If they let Arsal grow unchecked, they'd just be sharpening the enemy's arcane blade, one meant to take Kella's head. Meanwhile, the mages who had responded first were panicking. The explosion might draw more attention, and someone else could end up getting credit for their discovery. So, pooling all their mana together, they launched one final, deadly spell. From their perspective, Shrill's two companions probably just looked like regular humans. Yet they still attacked, showing no concern for collateral damage. That was the final straw for Kella. Furious, he dropped his disguise, revealing his horns and fangs, and declared he'd be using some self-defense of his own. The moment Shrills sensed the pure energy radiating from him, her eyes widened in both shock and recognition. There was no mistaking it. Her father's power was surging inside this young man. That night, the demon siblings declared war on the heart of magic in the human realm. From Rin's inexperienced eyes, it probably looked like a one-sided slaughter. Shrills knew Arsal like the back of her hand. After all, she once considered it her second home. She began the destruction with precision, tearing through government buildings and torching the Magic Academy. Kella, using the Demon King's mana that flowed in his blood, kept up with her ferocity. Together, they crushed the power-hungry elites who were still distracted by their celebrations. Without a hint of hesitation, Kella tore through them like they were nothing but sacks of meat. Their coordination was flawless, and by the time they were done, the magical nation of Arsal had collapsed to its knees. The arcane city burned through the night, the air filled with the stench of burning human flesh. Some mages who survived cursed the demons for destroying their homeland. But Shrills could say the same. They were simply avenging what had been done to the demon realm. And Arsal? It was only the beginning. She'd already set her sights on the Talcan squad and the mighty empire of Talua. Shrills was determined to burn it all to the ground. It was a mission that seemed insane in scale. But now that Arsal was in ruins, the path had already begun. As things settled, Kella quietly walked away from his sister. But before he could leave, she mentioned that she recognized the identity he was hiding behind. It was connected to his true self. Since she already knew, there was no point in denying it anymore. When Kella finally admitted it, Shrills was shocked. She had been guessing the whole time and wasn't even certain. That's when she revealed a deeper truth. She wasn't the Demon King's daughter in the usual sense. She was more like a mutant, born from blood aura. Because of that, she wholeheartedly accepted Kella's royal bloodline. Despite her strange appearance, Shrills was actually created after Kella was born, making him her older brother. Hearing this completely froze Kella, and assuming he wanted revenge for their father, Shrills formally invited him to join her mission. But what she didn't know was that revenge was the last thing on his mind. In fact, he had run away from home to escape it all. Noticing the discomfort on Kella's face, Shrills reminded him that he was their father's only remaining heir, the last royal blood of the king. Rin, sensing things could turn ugly, whispered to Kella to just go along with it. At that moment, Kella felt like he had no choice anyway. So, reluctantly, he agreed. That calmed Shrills down. Smiling, she turned and led the way to their next target. As for Kella, he had his own plans. While pretending to play along, he intended to drain every bit of magical knowledge his mutant sister had gained from Arsal. Revenge would make the perfect excuse to buy time, and gain a terrifying ally in the process. Without their knowledge, a mage had survived the assault and was already on his way to Talua to report everything. Soon, the capital received his urgent message, and the alarming news quickly reached the ears of Talua's greedy ruler. The report revealed that Commander Shrills was secretly a demon, and that the city of Arsal had been destroyed with the help of Prince Kella. This information deeply disturbed the human king. It was already bad enough that they had missed the Demon King's descendant and lost Arsal. But learning that the prince had aligned himself with a powerful, treacherous commander made things worse. What truly concerned the king was not the death toll or the ruins left behind. It was the fear of becoming a laughingstock if this news got out. Gripping his steak knife in his hand, the king issued a decree to hunt down and kill both Kella and Shrills before the royal reputation was damaged. His advisor, Hayden, swore on his own name that he would see it done. Inside the royal throne room, the severed head of the Demon King was displayed, a symbol of dominance, even in death. Yet Kaldun, the prince, remained a constant thorn in Talua's side. Fueled by his hatred for demons, Hayden made a personal vow to wipe out every trace of demon blood from the world. To carry out the mission swiftly, he turned to General Killian and his elite squad. If you asked anyone in the kingdom who the greatest knight alive was, they'd all point to Killian. He was perhaps the only man capable of taking on such a dangerous and urgent task. High in the mountains, a battle-hardened man with scars from countless fights felt fury surge within him. He had just learned that his brother, Kilman, had died in combat. According to reports, Kilman sacrificed himself in a mutual destruction strike against the Demon King. But Killian didn't care about the details. What mattered was that a demon killed his brother. The royal messenger used this to convince Killian to go after Kaldun in the name of Talua. But Killian didn't care about the kingdom. His only goal now was to annihilate every last demon, starting with the Demon King's own bloodline.